Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yes. We are finding locations all over the world here.
Or just in Iowa.
Well, wherever. People don't need to know that. They might think we're globetrotters. Trotting the globe.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But, yeah, we're finding yet another location, and, I'm going to hunker down, get into the meat of the work, and hopefully our followers they'll follow us where we go. Let's hope.
That's the good part of podcasting. You can kind of pack up and...
You can do it wherever.
Right.
On the road.
Right. All right, so I suppose we should just get right into it.
You can. We can chit-chat if you want, or we can get right into it.
What would you like to chit-chat about today?
I just throw that as a suggestion. But, what do you think about, buying a Art 101 van?
Well, I am not Art 101. I am Art One-on-One, so.
Well, Art 101, Art One-on-One. The whole thing.
A van.
A van.
Like one of those Travago vans where you have a kitchen and a bed and I could do something like that.
I don't know what it would have in it, but I was thinking more of a school
Not
bus.
Like a van down by the river.
More of a school bus type van.
I don't like that idea.
Traveling about.
You could do a mobile podcast. Just take it.
The mobile pod. And then, we could do art shows and I don't know. Something to think about.
There you go.
All right, enough chit chat. Yeah. What's first on the docket there?
Our usual segment is Ask the Art Guides.
Ask the Art Guides. All right. One of our favorites, where we ask our oracle cards guidance and conversation.
Yes. Last time I thought we did pretty well with that. This time, the card that we pulled is on Alighero Boetti.
Okay.
That's how you say his name? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, and I'm not really, really, really familiar with him. I've heard the name in passing, but I would not say that I'm...
That's kind of been the case lately.
Yeah.
Wasn't last week the same thing? Or was it a few weeks ago where you didn't know the artist?
There have been a couple times recently where I have been a little bit less knowing.
I wonder how they decided who to put in these cards. Because it is a little bit all over the place.
It is. There's designers. Yeah, the last time was the furniture designers and things like that. And I don't know. I don't know how they pick and choose. They probably just went through a museum and said, we'll just take one of those. One of each. I don't know.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any, I wouldn't know this, but is there anything in particular that brings all of those together that they put in there?
There's
contemporary, there.
Gosh.
Well, thank you for pointing out the obvious. They're artists.
That's the best I got.
Okay.
Because they're all over time, they're all over the map, they're all over.
Wonder if it's just ones that they particularly liked, maybe.
That's what I would do. I'd pick my favorites.
I told you we needed to make our own oracle deck. This has been on the discussion for me.
Yeah, and we certainly could.
And
then we could have that be a new segment. Ask the... I don't know what our deck would be called, but...
Yeah, obviously we have some work to do on that.
Yeah, I'll get right to work on that.
Okay, so Alighero. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Alighero.
I've done, since I pulled the card, I did a little bit of research on him.
Of course you did.
Well, I like to
be prepared.
You can't just
let it go.
I like to be prepared. And I did find him interesting because he's like very focused on like order and clutter and, I mean,
Yeah.
finding clarity in clutter, which I think defines my life at the moment.
Yes.
Pure clutter.
And what is the phrase, the topic?
Phrase. The phrase that we decided to go with was... No, that was the phrase. Find clarity in clutter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Find clarity in clutter.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of artists maybe perhaps do that, or at least attempt to do that.
I think you are one of those.
Like, I love just stuff and clutter and masses of things.
I just had this conversation actually today with a lady I'm doing a course with called Soulful Living, and I just talked about, like, our very first part of our Soulful Living is creating outer order so you can have inner peace. And, like, that's our whole, like, our first month is creating order. This finding clarity in clutter seems just crazy to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there's a big difference between having a cool collection and being a hoarder. There's a difference between somebody who won't take out their garbage and somebody that has a mental illness, perhaps. And I think that with artists, we try to collect things. We try to, there's lots of things. There's lots of clutter. In particular, like with his work, he's very compulsive with what he's doing. In the works that I've seen a lot of his more typographical works, where it's letters or words or phrases or things like that are organized in a artistic sort of way. And I think that there's something really, really cool about that. It gets really cluttery, it gets really busy, but there's an order to it, there's an organization to it, there's a grid to it.
He's definitely not an artist everything is just he stands out as very different to me than and he messed with, like, lots of different materials, like one of the quilts that he made out of, like, it was like a map.
Yeah.
It was in a quilt, or I don't know, but that was cool. I thought that was way cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the quilt type pieces with, like, flags instead of the countries and things like that. Those are pretty well known.
I would love to be in his head. Like, his very last sculpture that but that I watched, where he did a self sculpture. The water was, like, flowing onto the top of his head, and then it was hot, so it created steam, and it was supposed to represent his mind and his thoughts and his, which
I've never seen that piece.
It was cool. You should, I'm sure you will, post it on here for people to see.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
We could post something. And
so finding
because I've been doing that lately. I've been trying to incorporate and embed more. So if you see this on the YouTube channel, which was where I think most people are finding this nowadays, Spotify is an option, but I think most people are finding it on YouTube. And at any rate,
well, I think he's a great artist he's different. If you want someone out of the ordinary to research or to highlight or whatnot, his approach is definitely different. His art is different. His mind seems to be very interesting. And
that's one of those things where, like, sometimes these art oracle conversations have got me to think about certain things, certain topics that I bring back to the classroom too. So if there are artists or educators or people like that are using some of our conversations or dialogues to, interesting to note, if that was going on.
Well, like if you're talking for a high school art class or something like that, to bring in that type of artist, and because his work, I don't know when he was around, but his work seems pretty contemporary.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
He was around, doing his work in the 70s and 80s. Maybe even prior to that. That's kind of when the span of work that I think maybe more familiar with. I'm not sure of his. Like I said, I don't really know a lot about his life or when he lived or whatever, but I do know that he was working during the 70s and 80s for sure. Again, if there are people that are impacted by our dialogues or conversations in their own art, for my own curiosity, I would like to know.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
All right, so moving on from someone that's really probably the opposite of Alighero, our video, or my video that I dove into with Journey into the Archives.
Journey into the Archives. I always repeat it when you say it. I don't know why.
It's because for a long time I was saying it incorrectly, and you want to control how I say it, or...
I'm the least controlling person you probably know.
That's funny. Okay, so Journey into the Archives. We are moving from a person like Alighero who loves the chaos to, it seems to me like Camille Pissarro is the one that I watched the video on from 5 years ago.
Ooh, oldie but a goldie. That's one of my, I wouldn't say that the one that you did on Mark Hogan Camp and Marwin Call is probably one of the most popular videos I've ever done, most viewed and watched videos out there. Probably right behind, maybe neck and neck, is Pissarro.
Really?
That video has been, continues to be one of the most watched videos all the time. I always do it in my Mr. Burgher channel. There is a top 11, and I update it every month. And you can go in and see the top 11 videos that are available on the channel. And at the top, if not near the top, every single month for years is that Pissarro.
Do you think it's because a lot of artists or people are talking about Pissarro right now, or what?
Again, it's been going on for years. It's been the top.
I don't know so why, in your opinion, why would that video stand out to people?
I don't know. I think that people enjoy it. The one thing that I've noticed that I did differently in that video that I don't do in a lot is I don't think I put any clips in it. I haven't been around that video in a long time, but thinking about that same thing, looking back on that video, I don't believe I did any of like the little funny little things.
Interesting.
And I don't know.
Well, because it's your normal, it's a normal flow as far as your videos go, and it's highlighting Camille Pissarro.
And the other thing that I did in that video that I've never done since is there was, I don't know if you remember this, but I distinctly remember making the video. And I put in, there's like a part where I talk about him being in St. Thomas or something like that, somewhere in the, like on this island. Yeah, in the Bahamas or something. Mm-hmm. And over the top of I think there's some music, but over the top of that, I put some like seagull sounds and like water and seagull sounds at the beginning of the video. And so if you listen really carefully, I put like some like.
How would you remember something?
Because I'd never done it again, and I thought this is going to be like, I don't know. I'll put some seagull sounds in there. And when it got really popular, I thought maybe it's the seagull sounds.
I don't think it would be the seagull sounds.
But maybe it is, though.
Maybe it is.
Like the ambient background noises of birds and.
I liked something that stood out to me just like visually was the words, like when you were putting the words as you were reading them, you were bringing them in. That was something I haven't seen you do in other videos.
I do it. Sometimes I'll do it in one big text. Like if I do a
no,
quote.
I understand that, but you were like kind of bringing like it was different. It was flowing in from different, and I loved how that was coming in.
And I did that a little. I did do that a little differently too.
Well, the thing I want to talk about from that specific video is just kind of like the difference between the salon versus the exhibitionist or exhibitions.
Right.
Because you talk about that, and I don't know that I really understand the difference.
So Camille Pissarro was a major part of the 8 Impressionist art exhibitions. Now, that's also like a video that just came out this week on the 6th Impressionist show.
Right.
So that kind of ties in with that video as well. But what his whole focus was that he wanted real artists to be a part of that show. And he wanted the Impressionists to be a part of it, but anybody that was independent, anybody that was a real artist in his view, somebody that wasn't out for money, they weren't doing it for fame. He was very, very poor. There were times that other artists had to give him money just to pay his rent and sustain living. And he was this wise master. I in the my video on Impression Wars, which we've talked about several weeks ago, I compared him to Yoda as the master.
So he had good intentions around. It wasn't out of spite.
No, his thing was like he wanted people to be driven and directed to create artwork that was true and pure, but he also had this belief that the artists should be independent. They shouldn't be beholden to anyone. And a lot of times artists had, like the Impressionists, because of Degas, they had to make a choice. Well, either you're in this salon where you get recognition, you get a lot of people viewing your artwork, you can get your name out there, or you're in this independent artist show, which is kind of what it became, especially by this time in history, by the 6th Impressionist show. And there were a lot of Impressionists that were like, okay, I can be in this little tiny show and have quite a few works in it.
But you're chosen. You were chosen by a group of people to be in the salons, right?
But you have to be judged and that sort of thing. You have to be accepted in.
And Pissarro didn't like that as well. He wanted to have more control over
Pissarro didn't like the idea that anybody was a gatekeeper to his ability to show. So that's why he stayed with the Impressionists. But others like Monet and Cezanne and Sicily and Renoir and others said, I'm going to make a lot more impact. I'm going to get a lot more views. I'm going to get a lot more eyes on my work.
Reap the rewards
by going off
more directly.
Yeah, by going off and becoming a part of that salon as opposed to a part of something else.
So put yourself in the position of an artist in that time period, and would have wanted to be in the exhibition or the salon?
So when you look at this from a certain perspective, it's interesting because knowing what I know about the shows and the exhibitions, I mean, I could say to go the route of the salon would be the best approach because that would be the clearest path toward success. However, when you think about this from another way, going with Pissarro and the Impressionists and being able to put your name next to theirs in this very historic series of exhibitions, I would want to be included in that list. However, they didn't really achieve great popularity, fame, success, monetary. So
what's your answer? You aren't giving an answer.
I think, honestly, I could go either way. I think that if it was me, at that time, knowing what I know, I probably would have said, basically, screw Degas. He's sabotaging this group. We need to go. We need to get rid of Degas and move forward.
Because he kind of was steering away from Impressionism and more realists, right?
Right. Well, he was trying to get more of the realists in. He was trying to get people that were involved in other, just like independent artists into the show, and anybody that had money to help them or had something to help contribute, he was trying to get them in. But
and we're focusing on Camille Pissarro here, but really we're starting to talk about actually the video
of the sixth exhibition
this past week, which is the video of the 6th Impressionist art exhibition.
And as I said, I mean, both kind of play I didn't know that you were going to do Pissarro, but Pissarro is definitely a major character in the 6th, as well as the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th.
Okay, so we're Pissarro and Degas butting heads?
Pissarro, as you saw in watching the video, because you pay very close attention to all of the content that I make, you, I'm sure, took notes on the fact that Pissarro was very much...
He was an original Impressionist. He was like one of the OGs.
Exactly, and he was very much being kind of put up on a platform in this particular exhibition.
Okay.
As like, let's focus on Pissarro. He is a master Impressionist, and he also said things like, basically, to paraphrase a little bit, that Degas is no good. He's not good for our group. He's making this really chaotic in our group. He needs to go away.
But he didn't go away, and several others did.
No, he did not go away, and many others did, and that also was something that Pissarro was not a fan of. And also, as I said, there's another video that is a video that touches more on Degas, the dark side of Degas. I've got a little series going with the dark side, and the dark side of Degas focuses on him being a bit of a anti-Semite, and Pissarro was Jewish, and that didn't go over real well. As well as they got along, they did not get along very well, especially as things moved forward and Degas began to show his bigotry, his sexist mentality with, he was close friends with Mary Cassatt. He brought her in to the group, and really they severed ties, and they did not get along very well at the end of their lives because Mary Cassatt believed that women should be able to have the right to vote, and Degas said, women, they didn't vote. That's crazy. So
the 5th was the peak, I would say. Would that be accurate? The 5th exhibition?
I'd have to
if you could call it a peak? Because now it's starting to crumble or fall apart.
I don't know if I'd call 5 the peak. Maybe 4. Maybe 4. There's some ripple and waves. There's pros and cons to every exhibition. So.
Okay. Well, we're on 6, and clearly after 8, they are.
After 8, it's done.
Yeah.
I think what started the fall of the Impressionists was the fact that they let Degas have any level of control. Had they said, Calaboot, you got money, you've got notoriety, you have connections, let's do this your way, especially when we get into the 6th exhibition. We're going to follow your lead, and then Degas, you and your buddies get the hell out of here.
Essentially, it's similar to a Salon at this point, because Degas is kind of controlling everything. To me, it seems that way.
He's very much controlling who's in and who's out. He's very much controlling...
Which is what people the artists didn't like about the Salon.
Right. And I think that he was ostracizing a little bit some of the originals. Like,
So who are the OGs that are still in it at this point?
there's only three. Not Mary Cassatt is an original. You've got Degas,
Right.
who's actually not an impressionist at all, but he's still in it.
Right.
You got Camille Pissarro, who we've discussed,
Mm-hmm.
and the only other one that's been around since the beginning is Bertha Morisot, who was in every one with the asterisk next to one where she had a baby. I think that was number 4, the 4th exhibition where she had a baby. But there are accounts, especially like there's a letter that was written by Monet to Bertha Morisot, or possibly to Manet. I can't remember. But there was a letter that Monet had written talking about the artwork that she had in the show, even though she's not in the catalog. And
Yeah, I do remember that.
so, anyway.
So why? I guess my question to you is why did you choose to focus on these these impressionist art exhibitions?
Well, because when I was looking around on YouTube, when I'm looking around the internet, there are a couple of websites that touch on it. But there are like documents, there are artifacts around it, but there are very few pieces of video content where you can watch what happened. You can get that content in a video type format. And so I thought, well, somebody needs to put this type of content out. I might as well do it. And I had been thinking for a long time that I wanted to do something on the first exhibition. And it just kind of snowballed into, well, if I'm going to do one,
Right.
I might as well do all 8.
Yeah.
Might as well do them all. And so that's where we ended up. So
we want to thank everybody for watching. Please hit like and subscribe. Check us out on other platforms. YouTube is probably where you're watching this, but Mr. Burgher is on. Name them all off. You rattle them off better than I do.
I don't do that anymore. I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. You don't recognize this as we're taping this. Not really taping. We're recording this as it's being recorded. There's a little screen that I pop up, and it goes through the whole list. I don't need to name them all off.
All right.
I mean, all I need you to do is do like a little voice thing saying, "Hey, we're closing it out. Here are some other things. Go check out in the description. Maybe there's other video content you want to watch. Bing, bang, boom." But instead, I got this whole Mr. Burgher does it better than me.
Well, you do, because
All
we
right.
know what's in the description and the.
Yeah, well, they can find out. They can. These people are smart. These people are resourceful. They will do it.
Resourceful. Are you from the South?
I'm done.